The voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to. Lots to talk about. All-Star Panel Day, Hour 2. We're going to get to that. Our good friend Scott Dworkin of the Democratic Coalition. Rich Ojeda from No Dem Left Behind. And, of course, Sarah Burris, our outstanding reporter from Raw Story. I'm going to bang around the top stories of the week. But going to start with the infrastructure bill. Yesterday, you had Joe Manchin come out and say, not going above $1.5 trillion, not going to happen. Granted, this is the guy who voted to bail the banks out and shovel cash into their trough. But when working people need something, au contraire, mon frere, not going to happen. So $1.5 trillion is where his number is. Joe Biden came out today and said, how about 2? So we've gone from 6 to 3.5 to 2. Probably going to get one, might get 1.5. And I say, look, honestly, given that scenario, you got to take it. You take it and you run. Problem. Giant problem. Senator Dipsy Do. Kirsten Sinema evidently heading back to Arizona. We're in the middle of this. Hey, we're supposed to get this stuff passed because it would be really great if we could, start rolling some of this stuff out to get some stuff done. Before next year begins. No, she's going back to Arizona. A little fundraising to do. Now, I'm not saying that she doesn't have a foot problem. I'm not saying that her doctor isn't in Arizona. But it seems kind of convenient. Claims the foot thing, but really it's the fundraiser. And it's her big mega gala. It's how, it's how politicians are influenced. I'm not going to say bought and sold. It's how they're influenced. So this is very important to her. Got to go back and fill the coffers. Again, never mind the things that we need. And the thing that bothers me is it's overwhelmingly popular. I've yet to find someone who goes, we really don't need to expand Medicare anymore. No, seniors have it too good. Those drugs that they have to buy at full price. The fact that there aren't, things for dental and vision and for hearing, things that we could expand and should have expanded years ago. No, can't do that. No, can't get early childhood education for children. Overwhelmingly popular. Community college paid for. Really, really popular. Nope, can't do any of those things. It's all bad. Paid family medical leave. Can't get any of that done. The social safety net stuff that we've been needing for 40 years. The things that have been eviscerated by the right and the con movement. This is, for me, kind of a little reset. A little bit of going, hey, you know what? We really haven't taken care of our people. We really haven't provided that floor. And one of the things for me is I look at, I'm a labor guy, and I'm never going to shy away from that. The first thing that I say is, how do we create good family-sustaining wage jobs for workers so that they can support their families, they can participate in an economy. And I believe, good, strong union jobs are the way to go. And doing that with government investment. If the private sector refuses to create enough of those family-sustaining jobs or cannot, I go with refuses, then the public sector has to step in. Because we cannot have the kind of desperation that we're seeing. We can't have the two Americas that John Edwards talked about in 2004, where you have one America doing really, really well, thank you very much, and everybody else who, well, not so much. And for me, this is kind of that policy that's going to get us moving in a direction to where we're going to shore up the bottom a little bit, give them a little boost, maybe help them along, change our economy in really sound, smart ways. some investments in the future on climate change, do some things that are going to help us. Oh, I don't know, not roast in 50 years or not, end up having beachfront property here in Pennsylvania. I don't know, maybe some smart things like that. And some of this is in there. Doesn't go far enough for me. I would love to have seen some other things, but I understand. I understand compromise. I understand, some things are just a bridge too far. And Joe Manchin's been that guy who's been squawking all along. It's just too much. It wasn't too much to bail out the banks, but it's too much to bail out we the people. You go back to that era. The banks got bailed out. We got sold out. Okay. Deep breath. Move forward. Got to get something done. I think Manchin is gonna come along. I don't know about cinema. I don't know the calculus there. I don't know the point that she's trying to make by just being the fly in the ointment, or maybe that's just it. Or maybe there's really something kooky going on that we need to figure out. Remember, this is someone who said just 10 years ago that raising taxes on the very wealthy was common sense. Making them pay their fair share was common sense, not class warfare. And yet here we are saying, well, we can't repair our infrastructure and do the bipartisan things that she wants and help people and the human infrastructure side of things that people need. Can't do both, according to her. Remember, this is a woman who said, hey, the rich should pay their taxes, common sense. And understand, the way we pay for this is pretty simple. You tax the rich. Now, I digress a bit, because, when we were paying our bills, when we were investing in the nation, when college educations were more affordable, you didn't have a lifetime of student loan debts, when things were better. And you ask any older person to opine when the moment the America was great, and they always point back to the Norman Rockwell era. They always point back to the Eisenhower era. They point back to those times and go, yeah, Leave It to Beaver, one family income, supporting a family, still able to do all the things of the American middle class, a little picket fence, had their house, vacations, car in the driveway. Great. Mom making cookies in high heels, wearing pearls. Probably didn't happen much, but it was a great image. It was beautiful. It's Americana. That's what people think back to, and that ain't where we are now. But you go back to that era, and the top marginal tax rate in this country was 92%, which meant the rich guy, the Bezos, he was in the 92% tax bracket, which meant he probably did pay in the mid-60s as opposed to the absolute zeros. So do you kind of see where the money went? Yeah, we created the wealthiest man in the world by foregoing investments in our future, foregoing investments in our health, foregoing investments in our kids' educations. And all Biden is saying is, let's move a little bit, not a lot. Trust me, this is not a lot. This is not where I would go. But Biden would raise that tax rate up just a little bit. Just a little bit. Not again, not as much as I would. Just a little bit. He would raise the top corporate tax rate from the current 21%. Because remember, Trump dropped it all the way down from 35 down to 21. He wants to boost it not back to 35 where it should be, but to 28. Now understand, when it was 35%, the effective rate was only 14. So when they dropped it down to 21, it dipped even lower. Why? Because rich people, no matter how hard they have to fight, if they can get out of paying a dime, they're going to do it. And this is where, Biden is saying we can pay for all this stuff. We can pay for this stuff. We can end the Trump tax cuts. That'd be $700 billion. We could change the corporate tax rate, another $727 billion. We could do something with inheritance taxes, $430 billion. We could do all this stuff. We can make, we can have something of a wealth tax, make the ultra wealthy, not just the wealthy, but the really ones, the ones who during the pandemic, those 600 certified billionaires, who pocketed almost $2 trillion just during that period. If you just made them pay 2 cents in wealth tax on everything over $50 million, we could bring in $3 trillion. But no, we can't do that. If we got the IRS to go after the tax cheats, those folks at the top who have armies of tax avoidance lawyers that they then get to write off the costs of, think about that for a second. They get to do their criming, they get to do their sleuthing, and we pay for it. They say you could raise another $1 trillion. You could easily pay for everything that we need to get done. And I don't say want because we need it. We need to shore up a social safety net. And you see it in the unrest that is going on around us. I don't know if you've noticed, and I'll tell you, I'm very excited about it. The fact that workers have had enough. There are strikes going on across this country that I haven't seen in 25 years. You've got nurses across this country and other healthcare workers across this country, going out on strike. In California, they're about ready to go on strike with 24,000 Kaiser Permanente nurses and associates. That could happen. You've got, hundreds of healthcare workers in other places, and who are about to or on strike in this moment. Massachusetts, Illinois. In a bit, we're going to talk to people in Buffalo, New York. You got the motion picture industry, some 60,000 people who they're right there, right about to go on strike. You've got carpenters, you've got transit workers, you've got public sector workers, you've got people who work in dining rooms on college campuses are finally saying, you know what, enough already. 10,000 John Deere workers. I mean, this is the year of the strike because they've had enough. Here's my problem, though. These are the organized workers. These are the people who, the small percentage of organized workers. Understand, across this country, only a little over 6% of workers in the private sector in this country are unionized. A little over 6%. That means there's like 93, 94% of us that are not. And we don't have the protections of a union to go on strike. We don't have the ability to demand better wages, hours, conditions by hitting that picket line. We're being abused in silence. So when I see a story like the one that came out today on Amazon, because you may remember, Amazon fired 2 whistleblowers, this Emily Cunningham and Marin Costa, for having the audacity to say that they weren't doing enough on climate change. They were doing some things and talking out about what the company wasn't doing, and they were organizing people within the company to try and get them to do the right thing. Also to, maybe do a little protecting of the workers as well, just a thought. So they fired them. And finally, now after all this time, and it's been well over a year. In fact, if you remember, they had one of the executives at Amazon who quit because he's like, I can't stand by and allow these whistleblowers to be fired without there being repercussions. And he left. And good on him. Finally, the NLRB has come out and ruled that, yes, Amazon did fire these workers illegally. They're going to pay them back pay and the real punishment. Here it comes. You ready for it? This is the real punishment. The back pay, that's one thing. And if these 2 women had gotten a job in the interim, if they went and worked anywhere else, if they did anything, cut grass, washed windows, washed dogs, took in laundry, any of that, it'll be deducted because it's only what you lost. And the real hard part, the real punishment, they were going to have to post a notice that they won't do it again. That's the freaking punishment. That's it. I'm sorry. We won't do it again until next time. Until the time after that, until the time after that, until the time after that. And they get away with this because there's no punishment here. There's nothing here. So if these 2 women went and got jobs making the exact same wage, somewhere else because they're very bright and well educated and good at what they do, Amazon would have to pay them a whopping nothing. Kind of like Jeff Bezos pays in taxes. And the only real punishment is not even a slap on the wrist. It's a post a notice. You know, on that board with all of your rights about the ability to, get minimum wage that no one ever sees. Yeah, that's where they're going to put it, right next to the billboard nobody ever looks at. They're going to post a notice. Oh, we're sorry. We didn't mean to get caught. We won't do it again until the next time. And if we do, we'll post another one of these notices because this is so hard for us. These are the penalties. And this is why I say, look, the reality is we've got broken laws. So while we're talking about infrastructure, while we're talking about, the just the insanity in Congress and our ability to get nothing done, I keep saying labor law reform is something we need in the worst way. Major, massive, comprehensive labor law reform that give workers the ability to stand up and fight back and demand better wages, hours, conditions. Like these thousands of workers, tens of thousands of workers across this country are doing today and will be doing in the coming days. And I say good, it's about time. We need more of it. We need more people joining unions. We need more people going on strike and demanding better wages, hours, conditions, and with it, for everybody, a better standard of living. For me, that's the part. This is how we raise the boat. It's not the water. The rising tide lifts all boats. No. The rising tide? No. The striking workers. They're the ones who lift the boat. And we need more of it. And what happens then? I had an old timer tell me this years and years ago. He goes, it didn't matter. Every 10 years we went on strike for one reason. To get people to walk off the job, cross that onto that picket line, and fight for something. Because the second they were on that picket line and they fought for something, they won something, they're never going to give it up. It's too easy to give up stuff you didn't fight for. And this is why I'm thrilled to see so many of these people out in the street saying, you know what, we're tired of the crummy working conditions. We're tired of the abuse. We're tired of the poverty wages. We're tired of the diminishing health care and the non-existent retirement security. We are tired and we've had enough. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's going on up in Buffalo, New York, as some 2,500 nurses and healthcare workers have taken to the picket line. Quick break. Right back. Stick around.
More American than workers standing up, and the union gives a voice to win. On the Rick Smith Show.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1949. That was the day Americans awoke to fears the nationwide steel strike would spread rapidly to include key fabrication plants. 500,000 steelworkers had joined 400,000 coal miners on strike the morning before. The miners resolved to defend their $100 a month pension, instituting what John L. Lewis called the no-day work week, emboldened the steelworkers to walk out of the mills. Within 24 hours, 96% of all steel production in the country was completely shut down. United Steelworker contracts were due to expire on the 15th, but the writing was on the wall. The mill owners decried anything close to mine pensions as nothing short of socialistic and refused to budge in negotiations. United Steelworkers President Phil Murray thundered that those companies that failed to agree to demands for non-contributory pensions and insurance would be shut down. But militants warned that President Truman's fact-finding board had already watered down strike demands. The president's board had been established to put off 2 previous strike deadlines. The guidelines it issued only encouraged steel magnates to stand tough against United Steelworker demands. These included a 30-cent raise plus increased company insurance and pension contributions. Now, it had become a defensive struggle over whether steelworkers would have to begin contributing to health and pension plans through wage cuts. By the time steelworkers ended their strike 42 days later, they had won the $100 a month pension minus what they would receive from Social Security, and they had to begin contributing to a health insurance plan with no wage increase at all. Still, workers celebrated that they had successfully defended the United Steelworkers against the all-out union-busting drive.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So it's being reported some 700,000. We've broken the 700,000 barrier right now of people who have died from COVID. We're seeing hospitals across the country overrun, ICUs across the country overrun. And what I guess we've forgotten that frontline hero stuff, the healthcare heroes, the essentials. We've forgotten all of that because the desperate conditions, the poverty wages, all that stuff seems to be back front and center. And as I said earlier, the reality is you've got enough people who are saying, you know what, we have had enough. We're taking to the streets, and that's why this morning at 6 a.m. you had healthcare workers. Remember, our frontline heroes at Mercy Hospital in Buffalo, New York, who walked off the job. I think they were trying to negotiate a contract for 18 months, and this is kind of where it's gotten to. And it's sad that the management's allowed this to happen. But here to share some thoughts on this, I've asked Josh Zuppinger to come talk with us. He is an immediate treatment assistant there at the Mercy Hospital in the cardiac ICU department. Josh, thanks for taking time for us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.
So, am I getting this right? Some 2,500 of you this morning said we're taking to the picket line.
You're absolutely correct.
And you know what brought you to this moment? I know 18 months of trying to negotiate. I know that's way too long, but why this? Why now?
That now was the hospital kind of left us with no other option. I mean, we have worked 18 months with next to no staff and next to no equipment to do the job that we need. We've had to use scarce resources and try to take tiny things and make it into a whole pile just to give the care that these patients deserve.
Now, you're somebody who works in the ICU, so you're seeing some of the worst stuff. And to have shortages and to have understaffing and being overworked in that environment, I can't imagine that's any good for you or for the patient, for that matter.
No, it is. It's definitely not. I switched positions from. I was on a med surg floor for 5 years, and at the end of April, I came down to the ICU. And I have seen a lot just being down there in the few months that I've been down there.
So, and I can imagine. Look, this pandemic has been horrible on healthcare workers all across this country. Because look, we're talking with nurses and healthcare workers in Massachusetts and Illinois, all across this country, who are in the kind of the same situation that you're in. Overworked, understaffed, underpaid, all of those things, and finally going, you know what? We've hit the end of the road. We're burnt out, we're stressed out, and we're struggling, and we've had enough. Or am I going too far for you guys?
I don't think you're going too far at all. I think at some point you do have to say that enough is enough. Personally, I don't think there's a shortage of nurses. I think there's just a shortage of employers who want to treat nurses with the respect that we deserve, so that way we can give the care that these patients deserve.
Yeah, one of the things that we learned in economics class, 100 years ago for me, but we learned the supply and demand thing. If you're not getting enough of something, you've got to entice them somehow, and you do that through better wages, hours, conditions. Conditions being a huge part of this, because I don't know exactly what's going on in Buffalo, but I can tell you in other hospitals, it's the working conditions more than everything else that nurses and staff are talking about. Their ability to help take care of their patients, their ability to have the materials and the personal protective gear that they need. It's that stuff more than the wages and the benefits. Am I getting this right on your side?
Yeah, I completely agree. It makes it very, very difficult to give the care that you want to give when you don't have the equipment to do it.
Now, I was doing a little background check on your CEO, Mr. Sullivan, I believe his name is. Mr. Sullivan, he gets somewhere around $1 million a year in compensation. You've got some executives somewhere around the $7 million a year range. It's curious to me that we've got these folks who run these hospitals who have these big seven-figure salaries, but we can't seem to pay the person who's doing the actual work something that they can live on. It just seems it seems not just unfair. It seems ludicrous to me.
I agree 100%. And in my eyes, having happy employees leads to financial success.
So now that you guys are on strike, and I imagine that the community is supporting you. I saw some petitions that were being circulated. I saw some really good videos of the community supporting you. I guess we should start there. What kind of support are you getting from the community?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. I wasn't there this morning, unfortunately. I wish I could have been. But I've seen on our Facebook groups and from people that I know were there, there's elementary schools are dropping off snacks and water. And I know my barber has said that he wants signs in his barber shop because he wants to support us. And it's just been amazing.
It's like any strike. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants to be on strike. People want to be at their job. They want to be doing the work that they're doing. Do you believe you were forced into this? Do you believe this is something that the hospital wanted?
Honestly, I don't think either side wanted it to happen, but I do feel as though we had no other option in order to give our patients a safe environment for them so that they can have care that they deserve. They came to the hospital to get better.
Yes.
They're not going to get better, and you're going to have more negative patient outcomes with little staff.
So let me ask you this: now that you guys are on strike, they clearly brought in a bunch of travel nurses and people, basically scabs. They brought a bunch of scabs in to come and take your jobs, and I know they pay them just incredible amounts. It seems to me, and it always seems to me, that this could have been avoided by just I don't know, the hospital realizing that they're going to spend probably millions and millions of dollars on these travel scab nurses, that they could have just said, look, we're gonna work together and we're gonna move this hospital in a better direction. I just find it wasteful. I find it ridiculous, but I find it a common practice, because the reason I asked you if you felt forced into it, because other nurses are going, look, they want to break our union down. They want to push us to get the most that they can get out of us. So that's the reason I asked if you felt pushed into this, because, it's what the union busting playbook across this country has been.
Right. And I agree. I know that they don't like the union. It's obvious they don't like the union. You can see it. You can see one hospital's non-union. Their one hospital's sisters is non-union, and they did not offer them what they offered us.
Did they offer them more or less?
I believe they offered them more, as far as I know, under my knowledge, that they did not offer them the benefits they were offering us, which we are getting considerably less. Being with the wage increase that they were giving us, offering to us, I should say, and with all the things they wanted to take away from us, we would have ended up in a negative.
You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Josh Zuppinger. He is a immediate treatment assistant in the cardiovascular ICU at Mercy Hospital in Buffalo, New York. They're on strike today. Some 2,500 nurses and healthcare workers. 6 a.m. this morning, walked off the job and went on strike after what is 18 months of bargaining. It just seems to me, Josh, that in 18 months, management would have gotten their ducks in order and would have been able to avoid this. So in your estimate, what is the sticking point here? Is it the conditions? Is it wages? Where do you see the sticking point?
For me, from what I have seen, the sticking point is definitely staffing. It's safe staffing, so that way these patients can be cared for the way that they expect to be cared for when they're sick.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, I years ago we had a relative who was in ICU, had lung cancer, had surgery, and I remember I had to go and sit for 2 weeks with him every day because the hospital was just that short staffed. In an ICU, you had one nurse for 3 patients, which what I'm told is unheard of.
It's very, very unsafe.
And
The
I
most
I had
they
to
should
sit
have is
there.
two.
I had to sit there with him so that if something happened, I could go find somebody immediately. And it was that kind of thing where you go, this is unsafe. And the nurses didn't want it. They were stressed. They were overworked. But sadly, they, unlike you, didn't have a voice. They didn't have a union to speak up for them. So I'm glad that you guys are saying, look, it's staffing. It's taking care of our people because, as I understand, you guys did a survey of all of your members, and what you came out with is, well, what was it? 70% of them have said that that there are staffing shortages.
Yes,
That seems really high for a hospital that's supposed to be taking care of people during a pandemic.
it it was terrible. It's been really hard. I've watched in the ICU alone in the few months that I've been down there, nurses be tripled with patients that they shouldn't have been. They should have been one-to-one nursing care, but we didn't have a choice. When I worked on a different unit, it was a 48-bed unit. I was an aide on that floor, and sometimes there'd be only 2 aides for 48 patients, and you'd have 24 patients that you have to do vital signs and bed baths and make sure they don't fall and answer call lights, and it's not easy.
No, that is not easy. That's insane. Because there's no way you keep up with that. I'm sorry. No matter, you look like somebody who could run really fast. I don't, I don't see you running that. I don't see you being, unless you figured out how to split molecules and be in more places than one at a time. I don't know how you keep up with that.
As much as I would love to split myself in half to keep those patients safe, it was very, very difficult.
So what's the response to the community who's going to say, Josh, well, you should have gone a different route, going out on the picket line. Now you're not in the hospital at all. And you're not taking care of the patients. Then what's the response to that?
My response is that if we didn't do this now, it's just going to get worse later.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 18 months. I mean, how much further down the road do you get? And I say, look, a strike, nobody wants a strike. It's the last arrow in the quiver. But
Absolutely
at some point, you need to jumpstart the discussions. So, are there any plans from this point forward for more discussions, for getting back with management to get people back, the qualified people who do the job back into the hospital?
Absolutely. That's the one thing we want. We want to be the ones in there, giving our community and our patients the care that we know that we can give them, that we only us can give them.
Now, it seems to me, in looking at some of the numbers about this hospital, it seems like on the monetary front that they're doing okay. That this is not a poor hospital. They're not crying poverty, or they're crying poverty, but they're really not. Am I getting that?
Correct.
So this seems to me to be one of those moments where it's really about the will. It's really about their power over your power, and this is kind of one of those moments that going to have to work itself out.
I agree.
I
agree.
When you were
Justice will prevail. The right thing will happen.
That's
And I think the right thing that will happen is safe staffing ratios. At least I hope so.
And at least look, I hope so. At some point, we're all going to have to go to the hospital. Everybody eventually ends up there once in their lifetime. And what we want is the best possible care from people who are well trained, well rested, well educated, and passionate about their work. I never want somebody jabbing me with a needle, Josh, who hasn't slept in 24 hours, who's hopped up on coffee or 5-hour energy drinks. I want no part of that, and who's worried about the beeper beeping in 15 different directions. This is not a healthcare system. This is a crisis waiting to happen, and this is something that has to be stopped. And it's good on you guys for being the ones to speak up and say, we've got to change these things.
I thank you. I appreciate that. And my theory is in order to enact change, it takes action.
So last line of questioning I've got for you, because your coworkers, obviously strikes are about keeping people united on the same page, moving in the same direction. You got everybody out today?
Yet they're out there full force today.
And the concept of one day longer, because I've been talking to the nurses up in Massachusetts who have been on strike since March, and they're as committed as they were back in March, because once you start down this path, you got to see it through, right?
You always, anything you do in life, you have to see it through to the end.
So I know it's early in this, but are you guys setting up ways to have people help fund a strike fund, a benefit fund, to make sure that you guys are going to be able to make this down the road?
That question I don't actually know the answer to. I'm not part of the financial involvement with it.
Right. No, the hope is that there's some movement in that way, because ultimately this comes down to people being able to put food on the table and a roof over their head. So, when I talk about strikes,
Sure.
I talk about it from the perspective of you, Josh, and the working people who are out on that picket line, because they're not getting a paycheck. They've still got rent to pay. They've still got food to put on the table. They still got to get clothes on the kids' back and all of that, sugar and shoes and all of that, without paychecks coming in. So in order to help take care of our patients, to help fight for a better healthcare system, we got to make sure that your kids can eat.
Correct. And I know the union does have a strike fund that they do pay us after 14 days of being on strike. They will start to pay us in order to keep their members afloat in life.
It's
So that
something
way
we
we
absolutely
can
need.
continue to fight the good fight.
Something we most certainly need, and hopefully this is very short. Like all of these strikes, I say, you make your point. You hope they get the message. You get back to the table. You hammer something out. You get a good agreement that you can hold your head up because you won something, and then you continue to hold on to that and you fight for it. Because as I said earlier, I think more workers need to go on strike to fight for better benefits, better wages, better conditions, better opportunities, and then hold on to them. So I wish you guys nothing but the best. And as this continues, I'd love to have you guys come back and keep us up to date on what's going on and keep us up on what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I like I said, anytime, I am more than willing, any day.
Good stuff, Josh. I appreciate the time. Josh Zuppinger, like I said, he works in the ICU there at Buffalo Mercy Hospital. And look, honestly, I think it takes such great courage, especially in this moment, to step forward and say, you know what? I'm going to put myself in peril to help the people who need it the most. Because, like I said, we've talked to healthcare workers across this country, and the things that they see, the stories that they tell, the conditions under which they have to work, I don't think anyone should have to. And fortunately, these people in Buffalo have got a voice, and they are using it. And I hope folks will check out their website, and we'll get links out on social media on how we can do that, and we can get more information out on this. It's safestaffingbuffalo.org, the website, and we'll get that out here over social media. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back. Stick around. You listen to The Rick Smith Show.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1851. That was the day that William Henry, a black cooper or barrel maker who went by the name of Jerry, was arrested in Syracuse, New York. He was first told that he was being arrested for theft, but then he learned that federal marshals had arrested him for violating the Fugitive Slave Act passed the year before. Jerry had escaped slavery in Missouri. The anti-slavery Liberty Party was holding its convention in a nearby church. When word came about Jerry's arrest, a crowd rushed to release him. Once released, he was quickly recaptured and returned to custody. But then a large crowd, numbering more than 2,000, gathered to free Jerry from the office where he was being held. According to research done by the Syracuse University Library, the first person into the office was J.M. Clapp, an iron worker likely chosen for his brawn. The crowd was able to free Jerry and hide him until he could escape into Canada. Clapp also had to flee to Canada to avoid arrest along with 8 others. 19 people were indicted for participating in the rescue. Only one person was ever convicted, and he died before he could appeal. In turn, the abolitionists won an indictment against the marshal who had arrested Jerry. They charged him with kidnapping. Although the marshal was acquitted, it gave the abolitionists a chance to publicly challenge the constitutionality of the Fugitive Slave Act. Each year until 1858, a Jerry Rescue celebration commemorated the event. Abolitionists referred to the, quote, Jerry level as a standard for justice. In 2001, a monument to the rescue was dedicated in Clinton Square in downtown Syracuse. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So, like I said, good on those nurses in Buffalo and the healthcare workers there. I wish them the best, and we're going to keep following that because I think this is really important stuff. I do. I think it's important that that workers finally find their voice and say enough already, and that unions are saying no. We're gonna be more willing to go on strike. For a couple reasons. One, there was all that pent up, demand during the former guy, and you've got Joe Biden, who is, in my view, the most pro-union president, at least of my lifetime. So you've got the conditions are right. The conditions are right, and like I said, look, I remember the old timer who said, you need to cross that threshold. You need to take that moment. And I remember when I went on strike in '94. There was that moment of leaving the workplace and going, I may never come back here. I am walking across this threshold. I am going to fight for something. And who knows? They may close the doors. They may fire us all. Who knows what they may. But here we are all these years later, 94 to today. And the reason we went on strike was not because of our paychecks. It was to make sure that a certain job wasn't made permanently part-time. And those jobs today are good, family-sustaining, good union jobs with good wages, good benefits, good opportunities. And they're full-time jobs. They wanted to create these 2-tier wage systems, and they wanted a whole bunch of part-timers, and they wanted all this stuff for flexibility. And the union said no. The workers said no. We're going to stand up and fight for our brothers and sisters. We're going to make sure that our kids have jobs. We're going to make sure down the road, these are still good family-sustaining wage jobs. That's what we need to do across the spectrum in every job, because that's how you raise conditions. That's how you raise standards of living, not by wishing and hoping and praying and going, oh, will the benevolent company leak something down on me? Will the river of golden honey finally flow? No, it doesn't happen. It only happens when you demand and when you're willing to walk out onto that picket line, and good on them. My thought for today, vaccine mandates, they are working. So much working. And there's an unintended consequence to this. Look, I want people to be safe. I want people to be healthy. I want to get past this pandemic. But the unintended consequence is brilliant. We are weeding out teachers who don't believe in science, nurses who don't believe in medicine, and cops who don't believe in protecting, let alone serving. Win, win, win. Kind of like the vaccine hat trick. And the thing is I talk to numerous people right now, friends, who go, I go to my Facebook feed and I'm weeding out the kooks that were my friends. I never knew this person was crazy. Wow, this person too. Got to get rid of them. We are now finding out who the cranks, the crackpots, and the kooks are. That's a good thing. This is a good moment. This is going to give us the ability to one, identify. Because look, I don't want an anti-science person teaching my kid, voodoo. I definitely don't want someone in medicine who go, no, no, here, take some snake oil. Oh, no, beet juice will take care of that. Here, ram silver up your derriere. No, I don't want that. I want somebody who, when I go to a doctor, who's going to understand medicine. If I want voodoo or witchcraft, I'll find a circus somewhere. Maybe I'll find the one I never bought the candle from. But, now we're finding out who the crazy people really are. And the weird thing for me is the Supreme Court. The thing today, Justice Sonia Sotomayor allowed the vaccine mandate to stay in place. And you may remember, Amy COVID Barrett, she kind of did a similar thing back in August when she rejected a request to block Indiana University's vaccine mandate. This is eye-opening moments to where someone like Barrett, who I see as one of the kind of, the voodoo folks, saying, no, this is actual science. This gives me hope. And maybe this is now even in the workplace where you get some of the crackpots out. Because as I've said from the beginning, capitalism will decide. If we're not smart enough to do it on our own, if we're incapable of ruling ourselves, capitalism will decide. The free market will weed them out. And we're seeing this across the country, and they're huge news stories, which is just mind-blowing to me. 175 people fired from this system of 35,000. And that's the headline. 175 people fired. Not that overwhelmingly 99% of the people are doing the right thing, but you got these handful of kooks that, good, bye. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Good luck. Go do something else. But I do find the unintended consequences interesting. Now, I had someone tell me that, Joe Biden, he planned this. And this person was coming at me with the idea that this would be a negative. And I said, if Joe Biden truly did foresee this, if he is that kind of visionary leader, if he has that kind of crystal ball that goes, oh, you know what? If we mandate the vaccine, we can get rid of kooks and crackpots. I am so glad I voted for him. I'd vote for him twice if I could figure out how to, but not going to say that. Because Doug Mastriano is in our listening district, and he would be the one. See, radio host says vote twice. No, vote legally. This is the kind of quackery we need to get past, folks. And I'm really kind of in this place where I'm tired of insanity. We talk back about the greatest generation. I think of my grandparents' generation. I think of those folks who would they have put up with this? Would they have allowed a handful? I know what my grandfather would have done, and this is one of those things. My grandfather didn't play around. Even in his 50s, he'd grab you by the throat, because that's what their generation did. I gotta think. And it was one of these moments I had of thinking about him. If someone would have come up to him and pulled a mask off his face, I can't imagine what he would have done other than basically rip their head off. We're not that society anymore. And look, I'm not advocating violence, but when someone is aggressive to you in such a way that is going to put your health at risk, and be it, pulling your mask off, being it, entering your personal space and breathing on you deliberately, on an airplane, doing the kind of insanity that we've been seeing in these stores where, people are just trying to work, in these restaurants where people are just trying to make a living, just trying to get through this, to have the kind of childish, immature, selfish, narcissistic, idiotic behavior that these petulant children keep displaying. I don't know how that generation would have acted other than there'd be a lot of people being made citizens out of. Because my grandfather's number one statement was always, sometimes you got to knock somebody upside the back of the head to make a citizen out of them. And that was that generation. Our generation's very soft. We want to convince people. We want people to do their research. Knowing that most people in this country don't have research skills. Most people, when they did a research paper in high school, what did they do? They opened up the encyclopedia or they went to Google and, typed in the thing, and they basically plagiarized what they saw on that one page. And that is research. So when I hear people go, well, you got to do your research. What research? What sources? This is one of the things I try and teach my kids. When you're doing your research, it shouldn't be some dimwit on YouTube. It should be a peer-reviewed study where other people take it apart. And then it has to be defended. For me, that's a big part of this. It has to be a credible source. Not Joe's blog. Not, hey, I had some wings and now I'm going to belch something out. But actual peer-reviewed research. And this is why I think what LeBron did was a real, while I thought it was a good thing that he came out and said, hey, I got vaccinated, and maybe that's going to be something that will be seen, especially in the African-American community, which I'll tell you, if I were a black guy, I would be a little hesitant. I would. Given the history of what we've done to black men in this country, I'd be a little hesitant. Which is why you need to have people like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who basically come out and said, you got to do this. There's no screwing around here. What's wrong with you? But we're in this moment where we can either rise to the challenge, as our greatest generation did, or we can continue to rip ourselves apart and continue to allow a vocal, well-funded minority to keep things really screwed up for quite some time. I'm hoping, like I said, hoping we're able to get something positive moved through. Hoping we're able to do something that's gonna help us move in the right direction. But I'm not overly thrilled. I'm not overly convinced just yet. I'm a little concerned about where we are as a country, because this shouldn't be controversial. Shouldn't be. Protecting yourself, protecting your children, protecting your family, protecting your neighbors, having respect for your neighbors. I remember the guy I talked to a week and a half or two ago. Basically saying, I'm not going to get the vaccine because I can't. I've got some issues, and I respect that. But he said, look, I'm doing everything I can possibly do to keep myself and everybody around me safe while still living my life. And I know that I'm putting my wife and my kids at risk. I know I'm putting my neighbors at risk, and I'm trying to be as responsible as I can possibly be. You come at me with something like that, I respect that. You say, hey, look, I'm cognizant of the risks that I'm possibly putting into this environment. And do it in a way without screaming this weird entitlement. I mean, I love some of these women walking into Froyo or some yogurt joint and going, I have a medical exemption. Just crazy. Just insane where we are. But here we are. The country has reached 700,000 dead. Yesterday we said that Montana had reached 150% of their ICU capacity. Congratulations, Montana. And now we're finding out that other places are as well. You've got, the fact, the Midwest is getting hit. Vaccination rates in those parts are still lagging, and the South still lagging. there are a lot of problems. We've had record numbers of deaths, being recorded. In Texas, things are still going up, and still yet we're averaging more than 2,000 people dying a day. Where I live in Pennsylvania, we've seen a 7-day high of 370 people dying over the 7 days. And you go, but what's the big deal? That's such a small number. No, globally, we're still talking about, in the United States and globally, we're still talking about COVID being one of the leading causes of death. We're still talking about, some really, really terrible stuff. We're still looking at this in weird ways. And in fact, what Reuters has said is the United States is leading the world in COVID cases. According to them, 19% of all deaths in the country are related to COVID. How weird is that? And as we fill up the hospitals, as we fill up the ICUs, as we do the other things, other people die. That's the struggle. And that's always been the problem. So for me, the hope is in this moment, maybe find a little bit of that reason, a little bit of that respect, a little bit of that understanding, and protect yourself, protect your friends, your family, your neighbors, protect your community. And ultimately, maybe we get past this. I've said it before. I hate wearing a mask. I'm about ready to fly here soon. Next week we're taking half of the week off, and the entire following week for our vacation week, and we're going to Alaska for, I'm giving a speech and doing some stuff for Teamsters Local 959 in Anchorage, and can't wait to see the good folks there in Anchorage. We're going to be off, and the hope is during that time that we're going to be there, no one gets sick, no one gets infected. The flights go reasonably well without having anyone being duct taped to a seat. That everyone can be big boys and girls and sit in their seats quietly and trek 13 hours across the country without insanity, without incident, without crazy, and do it with some respect and some reason. I'm hoping, still really hopeful. But that is exactly where things are. But while we're gone, love to hear your thoughts. You can email us, rick@thericksmithshow.com. We'll still be putting out some of our best of, some of the best interviews, some of the best conversations that we've had over the last couple of weeks. If there's something you particularly want to hear, some folks that you say, hey, that was a great guest, be sure to let us know. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back. Stick around. You listen to The Rick Smith Show.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1991. That was the day that the Pattern Makers League of North America merged with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers. Have you ever heard of the Pattern Makers Union? The Pattern Makers can trace their history all the way back to 1877, where 13 men met in Philadelphia to form their union. Highly skilled craftsmen, the Pattern Makers created molds and models. These cast molds were an essential step in the industrial manufacturing process. The earliest cause of the Pattern Makers was the 9-hour workday. Over the years, the Pattern Makers fought for the health and safety of their workers in an ever-changing industry. Like many industrial workers, ebbs and flows in the economy hit their union hard. Their membership peaked during productive industrial times, including during World War II. The pattern makers issued a lively bi-monthly journal. The journal related the news of their union, but also reported on major legal decisions and events impacting the national labor movement. Also in the pages of the journal, the pattern makers related their efforts to support other workers in metal trades. By 1959, the pattern makers had more than 15,000 members. During the 1960 space race, it was the pattern makers who played an important role. Their molds and models were an essential step in building spacecraft and other aeronautical equipment. But in the 1970s, the pattern makers' numbers began to decline. Finally, they decided, as many unions have, to merge with another union. There are many untold stories of unions whose work kept the great machine of American industry running. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
On. Oh, shit. Damn it.
Not as
Fry
fun as
down.
the cleanse. The cleanse was the favorite part.
Oh, I heard that's really bad.
It's real fun, especially if you move and then you eat a lot of fast food and then you have to do it.
Oh, that's bad.
Especially if you eat fast food salads.
Let's do it.
I'm ready whenever you are. We just wait on you, Rick.
This will get us started.
It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. This hour, the big panel hour, our all-star panel here today, talk a little about the top issues. No shutdown. They actually averted the shutdown a couple hours early. I was expecting it around 11:59. I was expecting it the last second possible. You know, like a good show, 24 ticking down to the final second, the second before it goes off. Oh, crisis averted. So it looks like they actually did something. Very predictable, but kicked the can down the road a little bit. Still didn't raise the debt ceiling. But we got lots to get to on infrastructure, on the January 6th subpoenas that have popped out. The fact that LeBron James got vaccinated, all of that, and a whole lot more. That's why we've got our all-star panel of Rich Ojeda from No Dems Left Behind, Scott Dworkin of the Democratic Coalition, and our great friend Sarah Burris, reporter at Raw Story. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Airborne.
Thanks for having us.
So let's start with crisis averted. Armageddon didn't happen. The end of our economy didn't happen. They got it done, what around 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is perfect. I can just go to lunch now and then sneak out the back door when nobody's looking.
And I think what they do, they basically just kick the can down to basically January the 1st or something like that. And of course, you know, a lot of people need to understand that obviously this is so that we don't go in default. And literally, you know, the Republicans are going to sit here and say that they're not going to raise the debt ceiling, even though we raised it 3 times under Donald Trump. And oh, by the way, 97% of what we owe on this credit card came from the Donald Trump administration. Only 3% is what is from Joe Biden. So, yeah, you know, I tell you, it amazes me how the Republicans have no problems at all letting the place burn down as long as they have something they can say and blame on the Democrats in 2022.
No, that's absolutely it.
35 traitors voted against. 35 senators voted against it. Same thing. 35 Republican senators voted against that. And I just wonder, you know, when they're going to become Americans again, because I just don't understand exactly what their aim is here, because besides shutting down the government and screwing us all out of work and jobs and millions of workers and just hurting everybody, and killing people. Like that's what it would ultimately do. So I'm very happy that this happened so swiftly.
Yeah,
They
they're
want
always
the country to fail. Like that's the thing that makes me so crazy.
no, it's absolutely it. They're saying, "Oh, the economy's bad. The economy's bad. How could we possibly make it worse?"
Yeah,
Exactly.
And you know what? I mean, this could have been truly catastrophic. And look, I say this, I'm retired military, and I'm in the VA system. I mean, if they allow us to basically go in default, that could literally, normally people say, well, the last thing they want to do is piss off the veterans. By going in default, it could literally stop veterans VA, benefits. And, that's not the path you want to take.
Yeah, and people used to be afraid of senior citizens, and if we went long enough, they might not get their checks, and that would really be a problem, because again, the economy's really bad. They keep telling us the economy's horrible. So what they wanted to do is make it worse. Now, we didn't raise the debt ceiling. We're simply just paying the bills a little bit longer to set up the next fight, because they need this constant turmoil, this constant ticking bomb. And I think, and I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on this is. This is just more McConnell stall, delay, more change the subject and continue to push off us getting the things done that we need to get done. Sarah, let's start with you.
Yeah, and I think this is also part of Mitch McConnell's ongoing plot to see Joe Biden fail. I mean, he wants to crash the economy so that Joe Biden looks bad. He wants to destroy everything so that Joe Biden looks bad. And the goal is to get more Republicans elected and take back the House and the Senate in 2022. So it's whatever it will take to destroy the country. That's what Mitch McConnell wants. And now we have actual bills that could really legitimately help people, and they're bills that actually fund themselves in large part, a little bit of debt. I think it's like 250 billion or something that would add to the debt. And so somehow all of these Republicans who claim that they're fiscally responsible and they don't want any debt, but they still refuse to actually pass bills that would collect taxes or tax people that would pay down the debt. And it's just so absurd. It's so Republican of them.
But here again, as we've known, you look from Ronald Reagan forward, they are the party of big debt. You go back and you look at the fact that the Republicans, when they're in power, they run the debt up massively. And then when Democrats come in, then we have to talk about austerity. We have to cut. We've got to drag things into the bathtub and drown them because, hey, we've got to protect our rich people, Scott.
During the pandemic, keep that in mind. This is not the Trump shutdown from before. This is during the pandemic right now. We need that money. We need the government to keep on going. Again, lives are at stake. And they're willing to play with people as pawns, including veterans and the military, active duty military. They just don't care. They don't care. They just want to play games because there was some of the Republicans actually said it on the record that we want to make Biden look bad. Like that's the whole reason for this. There is no other reason for this. Because if you're an American and you actually care about this country, no one wants it to shut down. There was no reason for it whatsoever. So it's disgusting. Yep. It's par for the course, and nobody should vote Republican ever again.
Yeah, and Janet Yellen was right. This is a manufactured crisis. Ted Cruz, I think, laid it out. He said, we're going to get Joe Biden to surrender because he sees paying our bills as something to go to war over. And this is the thing, Rich. I don't know how things operate in your house. But I usually, fight over spending money. I don't usually fight over paying the bill after I've already spent the money. And this is what we're really talking about here. Which is why I think the debt ceiling is an idiotic construct that needs to be thrown away. We need to fight over spending first, and then we pay our bills when we do spend.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things. That's why it's important that we do our role here and try to educate the people. because I'll tell you right now, once again, when you realize that 97% of the reason why we have to raise the debt ceiling is to pay the bills under the Trump administration. And once again, it was done 3 times while under Donald Trump.
Yeah.
We've got to be upfront and honest with this and let people know what it is, because make no mistake about it, we're going to do what we have to do to, crisis averted. But, I can guarantee you that there's going to come a time when we're going to have to raise the debt ceiling because of all the spending under President Biden, and the Republicans are going to make sure everybody knows about that. They have no problems educating the masses when it benefits them, if it's in their favor. And it's time we do that.
But the difference is Democrats will go, yeah, we've got to raise the debt ceiling. They're not going to hold the country hostage to get their pound of flesh like we saw during the Obama term with sequester.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The Republicans, this is a game to them. This is just a big game. And honestly, I'm at the point where I'm like, are you willing to allow this country to burn to the ground just so you can try to say, look, wasn't us, wasn't our fault? At any given time, nobody, if you're a member of Congress, everybody should be willing to meet in the middle and get things done. And what we're seeing right now is pure selfishness and just people that, I mean, literally, it's almost as if they want us to fail so they can have something in 2022 to say, look at how bad they did.
Yeah, this is not about making the country better. This is not investing in the future. This is not about making workers' lives better. This is about scoring cheap political points. And that's really all it's been for the last several years. But Scott, I want to go to you because Joe Manchin today came out and said that he's got, a top line of $1.5 trillion for the Build Back Better plan, which, again, you look at this and you go, we're not paying our bills on this side. Republicans won't let us do this. We need big, chunky investment to help us get more voters in the new year. And you've got the Republicans working against you, and Joe Manchin, diminishing expectations. This ain't good.
Republican Senator Joe Manchin is, I don't know how to put it, a disgrace. He actually wants to make an example out of him. So we will, legally. And I'm sick of it. I've been nice about it with him and Sinema. Everybody has. The resistance still exists for the specific reason to push back against our own party, I guess. I don't like the idea of, we can't push against him because we can't win statewide in West Virginia without him. I don't care anymore. He is a Republican. He's an obstructionist. And I don't care if he leaves the party at this point. I understand that he votes with us some of the time, but at this point, it's killing people.
Yeah.
Are killing people.
I got to jump in here. I'm sorry. I listened to him today when I got up this morning, and he said that West Virginia did not need things like roads and bridges. We're 50th out of 50. What the hell's wrong with this guy? We are 50th in infrastructure, and he's going to sit here and say that West Virginia doesn't need broadband? Our kids have to sit in the friggin' parking lot at McDonald's to do their homework because the moment they go up the holler, they lose complete connectivity. What the hell is wrong with this guy? I mean, I'm done.
Because he doesn't drive on those roads, and he doesn't need that broadband access. His neighborhood is fine, thank you very much.
And if you look at his plan, like what he outlined, the things that he wants, he makes it very, very clear who is buying and paying for his campaign. He said that he doesn't want to, tax any oil and coal, and he wants to make sure that if we're including, that if we're subsidizing electrical vehicles, we have to make sure we have hydrogen in it. And I was like, what? Is there like a whole hydrogen car thing? And then I Googled through that, and I mean, the whole thing is just a ridiculous idea. And it's like, okay, well, if your state doesn't need any of this money, then maybe we just shouldn't give you any. I mean, if you're going to play this game, then I guess it seems like you don't actually need any money going to your state if you're not going to support it. Like, that's what Republicans would do.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And the thing is, the things in the Build Back Better plan are popular. Expanding Medicare, popular. Paid family medical leave, popular. Extending the $500 or the $250 per the tax credit for the kids, very popular. Free community college for kids, very, very popular. All of this stuff, really popular.
Universal pre-K,
huge. Throw that stuff out there. We can't
we
get
need
it
it.
done because of a handful of people.
Yes.
We need a real majority. We need to expand to a real majority in the Senate to make Manchin and Sinema irrelevant.
And the thing that's so crazy, I will say too about this bill, is that it's not just Democrats and progressives that support it. Yes, Democrats and progressives support it, but it's like 39% of Republicans are all for it. That's a pretty big chunk of Republican voters who are like, yes, I want pre-K. Yes, I want paid family leave.
Common sense stuff that helps people. I don't understand. It shouldn't be controversial to help people. It shouldn't be divisive to work together on something. Like they just want to pick and poke, and they have this fake audience that doesn't really exist. If you look on Twitter and other social media sources, you can see that their fan base is dying because a lot of them are troll farms. A lot of them, they think they have this kind of support that they do not have. There are not that many anti-vaxxers in this country. There aren't. There's enough to be a problem, annoying, but in reality, they don't exist in mass. That's not a thing. A lot of it's foreign entities that are being funded by Russia and China that want to plant that seed in our heads to be like, you know what? You guys should go ahead and they take the bait. They take the bait every single time. And it's stupidity and also willful ignorance where they want to fall in the trap. They want to live in this society where they're against masks and blah, 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 blah. No, most parents want their kids to wear a mask if they're in school. They're never above them being in school in the first place. So I don't, it's a lot of Trumpism because they're just sitting there screaming at the top of their lungs, but what they're saying is nothing. They're not saying anything. That's the bottom line there.
So let me ask you on this front, because everybody's on board, it seems, with the, most people I know want the hard infrastructure. It's the reconciliation bill that's getting a lot of the attention, which I would argue the $3.5 trillion that it's now down to is a massive compromise. Because we keep hearing people say, well, we need to compromise to get down to where Joe Manchin is. Well, we've already compromised from the $6 trillion that Bernie Sanders wanted down to $3.5, and now we're going to go even further. I'm looking at this and going, does Nancy Pelosi move forward on the vote? And if she does, do you think Republicans come along on the hard infrastructure, the quote unquote bipartisan bill, if for no other reason to tear the Democrats apart on the other side? Let's start with you, Sarah. Thoughts?
Well, there's a whole argument in the House right now where Republicans don't understand that the bills aren't linked together. Or they think that they're linked together, and they don't understand that they're two separate bills. So all of these Republicans are like, no, we're going to vote down all these roads and bridges because they think that means that they're voting against, again, paid family leave and paid, free kindergarten and stuff like that. And it's even people in the Senate. Bill Cassidy from Louisiana came out and was like, I don't understand what they're doing. It's all the Republicans are doing in the House. Like, when you have your own senator from a crazy right-wing state coming out being like, there's something wrong with y'all in the House. I mean, that's where we are with these people. That's how insane it is.
No, Biden wants it. We can't have it. Rich, your thoughts?
I think that exposes people, but people aren't picking up on it. With these Republicans, I mean, once again, they just want to go into 2022 and give the Democrats nothing. They want to say that they couldn't get anything done, and that's why you need to give us a shot so that we can get it done. That's why it's important that we've got to figure out how to educate these people to basically expose them for the tactics that they are using that's really hurting us, and that's where we are. And it's just really, it's very frustrating.
And yet when they had the opportunity to do things, they didn't do anything. Scott, you want last thought on this?
And they were coming out against building like internet infrastructure, as Rich said. They're coming out against it on the internet via social media networks. You see the irony there? Like they're complaining, we don't need it. We don't need it via Twitter. Like it's just like insane because that's their tool that they use. And I think kids and families and everybody need access to that, and they don't have it. And so a lot of this is just nonsense and talking points and phrases from the GOP, and it's just gonna their party's gonna be in flames.
Interesting stuff, but we'll see how this plays out in the coming days. And look, like I said, this is wildly popular stuff. This is, everybody I talk to, regardless of political affiliation, go, yeah, I want the hole filled out front of my house. Yeah, I want my kids to have the best access to broadband. I want to be able to order my stuff online without everything buffering and going crazy. These are investments that we desperately, desperately need. And yet one party and two Democrats holding all of it up. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back with our all-star panel. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
American than workers standing up, and the union gives a voice to win. On the Rick Smith Show.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2012. That was the day the Chicago Teachers Union walked off the job for the first time in 25 years. The historic week-long strike resonated nationwide among trade unionists and served to reinvigorate the labor movement. Certainly, higher wages and better benefits were among the teachers' demands. The city's mayor, Rahm Emanuel, had canceled the union's wage increase, laid off close to 1,000 teachers, and went on the attack against seniority rights and working conditions. The strike enjoyed wide public support among parents and the public. Teachers emphasized broader educational problems they faced, namely the attacks fueled by corporate privatization. They wanted a return to more traditional forms of education rather than simply preparing students for endless rounds of testing. They wanted more art, music, and gym classes. And they demanded stable funding for social support services for the most vulnerable at-risk students. Union teachers understood that the Board of Education was using standardized testing to get rid of teachers and schools in order to privatize education, all in the name of turning around failing schools and helping the kids. Though the contract was less than perfect, it showed the power working people have to hold the line against continued assaults on their standards of living, especially in the public sector. The CTU was able to beat back attempts at merit pay and increased use of student test scores in teacher evaluations. They won first-time recall rights, supply reimbursements, and liberal arts classes. There were concessions, however, made on seniority rights, pay for laid-off teachers, and longer workdays. But the CTU demonstrated that strikes can win in a period of extended anti-union onslaughts. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So we've been seeing the stories coming out about the January 6th criminals. In fact, this week, the swimmer, the Olympic swimmer, he pled guilty to charges and is going to cooperate, obviously probably seeking a more lenient sentence. And this is the thing that's been really frustrating to me because I think there should be maximum sentences. We should be sending people to jail, real jail, not, a couple weekends here, a couple weekends there. I mean, actual jail. You committed crimes. Time for you to go away. Lots of light sentences. Oh, I was caught up in the frenzy of the moment. Oh, I was caught up in the moment. Oh, the crowd. Oh, mob mentality. No, no, no. And the question that I have for our all-star panel is, do these light sentences that these judges are handing out and our prosecutors are moving to the judges with, is this just another way to, help the Republicans reframe that criminal day as, hey, it was no big deal, walk in the park. Look, the sentences aren't all that great. That's why I've asked our panel to stick around and talk a little bit about it. Guys, thanks for taking time for us. Scott, let's start with you. Thoughts? I mean, does this frame it in a way that, hey, it's no big deal? Guy got 45 days in jail for taking a dump somewhere.
I mean, I think there should be harsher penalties for even entering the building in the first place. But I think they're going to make an example out of other people. And some of those people are going to have to go to trial. Those trials will be next year before the midterm elections. This is not going to work out for them. This is also not the only people who will be indicted from this. I talked to some people who work with the select committee, and we're looking at another 100 indictments, at least, at the minimum. That was 100.
Good, we need it.
So, yeah, I mean, and those people, the organizers, the funders, and things like those are felonies. So I would say, about a quarter of these people are facing 10 or more years in prison for serious felonies, for assaulting police officers. And also some of these people still haven't been found. There's a lot of things going on. Obviously 15 subpoenas have been sent out. They're going to send out at least dozens. And keep in mind, this is after them asking these people to turn over information that they probably already have, cell phone information, data, and whatnot. But they're asking for this information and they deny the request. So they sent out 11 subpoenas yesterday. They sent out 4 subpoenas to Trump's inner circle. They're going to subpoena his family because I'm guessing they're refusing. They're also going to subpoena members of Congress and their staff. Nothing is off limits. I don't know what they're going to do with Trump because that's just, they don't want to make a big deal about subpoena for him because he's going to fight it, and that's going to be a little bit weird how it's handled. So they may not waste time with that yet. But they're looking to end this by the early next year, which means that they may be referring indictments to the DOJ shortly for people. I know that in the next few weeks or whatnot, people could be indicted by the DOJ for ignoring subpoena requests. They are going to enforce every single subpoena. They are very well aware of everyone's impression of subpoenas. Keep in mind, this is not Trump's DOJ. This is not Trump's White House. There will be nobody protecting them from there. And Biden is on board with supporting the select committee all the way. So yeah, there may be light sentences to start with, but this is the first and second inning. This is the early on. These are the people who made very bad choices and went and followed the cult inside the Capitol. These are not the people who brutally assaulted police officers. These are not the people who planned a conspiracy against the United States of America. These are not the people who funded the event. And these are not the people who should spend the rest of their life in prison, which are the organizers of the event who intended for it to be violent. So we've got a lot of people down the pike, and it's not going to be pretty for them. And it's all going to be before the midterm elections here. So the truth is going to come out, and they're going for the jugular as they should. So it's a TikTok situation. And I know that people would be like, oh, I've heard it all before, but no, this is different. This is a Biden White House, and this is a DOJ that Biden does not control. It's a DOJ independently. But at the same time, he's not going to let them protect any of these members of Congress and anybody who worked in the White House previously. At the same time, any of those communications at the White House turned it over to the select committee. They had those communications. Other private communications will also be turned over. They're going to have access to everything. Everyone, every major corporation is complying. So I don't know exactly what their plan is, but they don't need everyone to testify and everyone to comply. But at the same time, they are going to enforce these subpoenas. I mean, this is a bad situation for the Republican Party. They got to get out in front of this. And the only way is to comply.
Oh, and look, we're talking two different things. You're talking about the committee's investigation and the subpoenas. I'm talking about the people who are going to jail right now, the people who are been arrested, they're being charged. And Rich, maybe you'll come along with me on this. I'm looking at these 45-day sentences, these taps on the wrists, because the people that I'm talking to in the streets are like, well, they're getting nothing for trying to overthrow our democracy, for trying to stop the election from being certified. This is a real crime. This is different than breaking a couple of windows or stealing a pair of tennis shoes. This is about destroying our democracy, and all they're getting for it is a weekend pass somewhere and a fine and a tap on the wrist and a promise not to do it again.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this at all. I will tell you that, if you walk through a broken door, then as far as I'm concerned, you might as well have broken that door. The same thing with the broken windows. That's the hallowed ground. If you were in that building and you were wearing a ballistic helmet, a military freaking helmet, or you were wearing a flak vest, the way I look at it, you come there ready for war, and you need to be held accountable for that. Now, I know right now they're hitting the people that just basically walk through the front doors and stuff like that. I do believe that as time goes by, they're going to start to get the worst of the worst. The guy that was bashing people with the hockey stick, I've heard as much as 60 years he could be facing. Look, I want to see all these people go down, but I'm with you. I don't want nobody to get a slap on the wrist. I want these people to go down because this needs to send a message. Because if you don't, this could happen again. Yep. This was nothing but treason. And yep, I want to see the people who gave the tours to go down. I want to see, I want to know what Donald Trump was doing when he said he's going to go with them and he went the other way. I want to know that stuff too. But I think that what these people did on January the 6th, they should be held accountable for the entire event. You know, they struck the flag of the United States of America from our nation's capital and replaced it with the Trump flag. They let a man walk through the halls of Congress with a rebel flag. Everybody that was there, to me, you are all guilty of the same thing. You know, to me, everybody should be held to the same standard. And I mean, put all of them away. I don't give two shit.
And I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm not trying to downplay it at all. I just want to clarify, like, I believe that I've told the DOJ that I've told people this, that anybody who stepped in the building should spend at least a decade in prison, if not more. But I'm looking at the reality of it. And
right.
This is the reality as right now.
No, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because the narrative that's being spun, Sarah, and maybe you've got a thought on this, is that, you know, it's not a big deal. The Republican congressmen are going, if you wouldn't have known it was January 6th, it looked like any other day. And you know, we're seeing these light sentences, you know, probation in some cases, 45 days. It's I think reinforcing that narrative is, wasn't a big deal.
I think that narrative is going to keep going. And then once we start getting into like severe sentences, that narrative is going to fall apart, and it will fall apart closer to the election, which politically is better for us. Scott is right, though. Legally, breaking in and entering is one crime. Entering is something else. And so legally, you have to look at the difference between those two. And if Scott's right about the additional 100, that means we're going to have 760 plus people who have been indicted. There's been 90, maybe 95 who have pled guilty so far. That leaves a heck of a lot of people left. And I think that they're looking at those people who, were doing the selfies, the woman in Kansas who broke down crying in court this week. There were no pictures of her breaking anything or taking a dump on the floor. It was just her wrapped in a flag, taking a bunch of photos of herself. And so, that alone already, basically she's getting more than a slap on the wrist. And it's enough to freak her out. But I think too, if any of these people ever did anything like this again, they're done. This is not, it's one of these things where okay, we've broken into the Capitol and we've, torn some stuff up, but if this ever happens again, if you're ever convicted of a misdemeanor again or a felony again, this follows you.
Yeah. Anybody else buy in the light treason argument that I'm getting? I'm getting a light treason vibe here, Sarah.
Well, then I think that there actually absolutely should be treason charges. There should be sedition charges, because we have basically proven that this was absolutely intended to be a takeover of the government. We have the memo, the Trump coup memo makes it, they wrote it all out. It's in 2 pages, and it has several points planned. And so I think that gives you the license to start charging people with treason and sedition. I don't know why the FBI is not doing it. I would love for them to.
Scott, let's go to you, because you got this 2-page memo that came out, very digestible, short paragraphs, so that the former guy could read it. Kind of Bush-esque, I thought. But I read through it and I'm going, it sent chills down my spine at how methodically they laid it out, and they've well gamed all this stuff. None of it was new. They trial ballooned all of it in November and December, but the fact that it was just written out with the kind of clarity and forethought that the most powerful man in the country was thinking this, I got to tell you, it sent chills down my spine.
This was not an attempted coup. This was a failed coup. This was a true coup via election, which is legitimate by definition. I don't see it as any other way. Their intention was for their own supporters to be hurt that day so that he could shut down the government or shut down everything at that moment. They wanted people to get hurt. Their intention was to overthrow the government. They wanted to stall the count so that he could stay in power, and then it'd be muddy waters and he just stays in power, and Biden's sort of president, but not really in the White House, and Trump is still in the White House. I guess on January 20th, he probably would have been dragged out of there. But it's still was it's so damaging. But the people who did the damage were in the White House. They were next to him. Those are the people who need to be arrested in a perp walk. I am not defending anyone that was even there that day. I've used the word traitor more than anyone else in the country probably, but I don't misuse it either. I would say that the folks that it would be easier if they were charged later on, or if they were tried later on after we had the information from the January 6th Select Committee. Once we had that information, then we'll look at those people differently. It's not, they may have gotten off light, but that will follow them forever. They will look like Nazis in the eyes of our children forever. These are not people that will be liked forever. It's ingrained on their tombstone. Like this is them forever. So I think there's a bigger sentence than just that. I do believe in harsh sentences for this as well. Now, keep in mind, federal probation is no picnic either, and they can easily go to prison again. And they've obviously kept some people on remand as well. But they are treating people differently because they're white. Bottom line, because they're white. That's why. And I think it's grotesque and it's disgusting. But I look at the reality of the situation. I think that memo and everything else that will have the evidence that I see right now is that it was a coup and it failed. And it failed because we fought back. And Speaker Pelosi is one of the leaders of that. I don't think Pence didn't want to go back in there. McConnell didn't want to go back in there. They wanted to stall. They're in on it. All of these people need to be arrested. Like, this is not a joke. This is not jargon. This is not me being political. This is people committing treason, trying to overthrow our government. And everybody needs to be held accountable. And the people who need to be arrested at the top of it have not been yet. And they must. And I'm going to demand it, and everybody else should. And I think the evidence will prove it to be so.
Yeah. Now, Rich, let me go to you because, we're seeing basically the rewrite of the day. And I'm getting emails all the time from people going, Ashley Babbitt is a martyr. And I can see down the road, them, trying to erect a monument with all the people who have been found guilty or pled guilty, as we're going to make them martyrs and in some kind of weird Confederate way. How do you see this playing out going down the road?
I think that everybody needs to be completely educated on all of the facts, things that went on behind the scenes. The American people need to know this, because once they know this and they get all of the information, then I believe they're going to admit that this was nothing more than a failed coup. And that's what it was. I tell you, people in my circle as military, as far as your Ashley Babbitt, Ashley Babbitt, I respect her service. She's a 14-year Air Force veteran that served in Iraq. But the moment that she stepped foot on our soil in our capital, she became a treasonous traitor. And I'll tell you right now, that guy that squeezed the trigger on her did exactly what he had to do. Had she got past him, who knows what could have happened. If she would have got past him and opened that door and said, "Hey, they're in here." Those people running around with those zip tie handcuffs, they wasn't wearing those for looks. They were wanting to go in there and absolutely take hold of members of Congress. And you had people that have said, people that have been arrested, that even listed on social media, that they just wanted to basically murder, Nancy Pelosi on the House floor. So we cannot take this lightly. These people need to be held accountable. And I'm hoping to see some of these people go down forever. And like Scott said, if the truth gets out, none of these people who participated in this are ever going to walk around and be able to say, "I was there." They're going to do everything in their power to make sure that nobody knows that they were there. And that's the best way.
Hope so. Sarah, 30 seconds. Your last thought?
Yeah, well, one of the things that Scott didn't mention is that it's not just the charges. Like, any job that they ever work for ever again, if they Google them, that's the first thing that's going to come up. So this will follow them forever.
So there, you're going with the black scar that they're going to have forever and going to follow them. And look, they deserve it. They broadcast their treason. They wore the treason proudly. They should wear it around their neck. Guys, going to take a quick break right here. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. You missed any portion of our program, make sure you check out the website, thericksmithshow.com. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Rick Smith Show. Facebook, give us a like. Subscribe over at YouTube. Maybe share a couple of them. And if there's a topic you want to hear, let us know. Quick break, right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1919. That was the day that began the Elaine Massacre. The massacre took place in Arkansas, where more than 100 black farmers and sharecroppers were gunned down for daring to organize their labor. The year before, a black farmer by the name of Robert L. Hill had founded the Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America. Union members pooled their money to purchase land. They also hired a lawyer to sue planters who did not give black tenant cotton farmers their fair share of the profits. The group grew in membership in the Arkansas Delta region, including near the town of Elaine in Phillips County. But white landowners would not allow this challenge to their power. Armed white militias came to a church where the union was holding a meeting. The black attendees were also armed. Gunfire broke out. In response, white posses and federal troops unleashed a wave of terror across Phillips County. Hundreds of black residents were arrested. At least 100 black Arkansans were killed. Some estimates of those murdered is considerably higher. 5 white people also died. 122 black men and women were charged with murder. 12 were given the death sentence. No white vigilante, however, was ever charged. The convicted African Americans appealed their cases. One appeal for 6 of the defendants went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where it was overturned in a landmark ruling. The year of 1919 was one of the deadliest years of violence against African Americans in U.S. history. Civil rights activist James Weldon Johnson called those bloody months the Red Summer. 26 race riots left thousands of African Americans homeless and hundreds dead from Chicago to Washington, D.C. to Omaha.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So the big news this week, LeBron James evidently wrapped up his research. I wonder if he was watching YouTube on the toilet and got enough research, but he has been vaccinated, he says. Goes on to say that we should everyone do their own research and all of that stuff. Ted Cruz, on the other hand, is standing with the handful of NBA players who are the anti-vax crowd. And you would expect that, wouldn't you? But I think finally, I think LeBron James did the right thing, came out publicly, said that he's conducted his research. I'd love to have that reading list. I'd like to know what that was. Maybe just his contract that said you don't get paid if you don't play in certain arenas. Just a thought. But here to share some thoughts on the vaccine mandate. And, on the LeBron side, off the side, should Kyrie Irving have to be vaccinated? Our all-star panel of Scott Dorkin from the Democratic Coalition, Rich Ojeda from No Dems Left Behind, and, of course, our good friend Sarah Burris of Raw Story. Guys, thanks for sticking around.
You bet.
So let's look at LeBron. He's come out. I think he's done the right thing. A little late. I wish it would have been sooner. But let's start with you, Sarah. Good thing, bad thing, doesn't it matter?
Yes, I will take anybody who comes to the realization that they should be vaccinated. The funny thing about Ted Cruz is I wonder how long Ted Cruz is going to support those guys when they start taking a knee during the national anthem. I wonder if that's going to continue. But yeah, I think hopefully LeBron will, his stature will help influence some other players. I think for the associations to be saying that you have to be vaccinated to play, I think that's really important because you're in these guys' face. So this isn't just about, I'm getting vaccinated for me and this isn't about anybody else. If you're playing and sweating and breathing all over each other, you're putting other people in danger if you haven't been vaccinated.
Yeah, but I understand the Players Association has come out not in favor of vaccine mandates. I don't know that the NBA has said anything. This is coming out of New York City saying you just can't play.
And it's interesting because the NFL Players Association seems like they're a little bit wavering on that. So I wonder if it's like, maybe it just depends on the sport for players. The other unions are not acting like that. The teachers union came out for vaccines. So it's weird to have so many different associations being like, oh, we're going to protect our members so they die.
Yeah, but here again, I bring this back. This is because New York says everybody who plays in the Barclays Center or Madison Square Garden, you've got to be vaccinated or you don't play. And the reason, Rich, this is coming up is you got this Kyrie Irving guy who's saying, we hear this stuff, respect my privacy. No, not in this moment. Normally I'm with you on the privacy angle, but this is a public health emergency.
It is. And you know what? I mean, it's only taken you 2 years to finally do the right thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's time in this country. First off, nobody's lying. Nobody's blowing smoke up people's backsides. We're in the midst of a global pandemic and millions of people have died. I think we've already crossed the 700,000 death mark in the United States of America. I mean, it's purely selfish for anybody to fight these things. And at the end of the day, it's to be an athlete and to not want to do the right thing to protect those around you. That's pure selfishness. It makes me absolutely want to turn the knob off and not pay attention to any of these people that are fighting this garbage.
Yeah, but
do the right thing.
But here's the thing, Scott, and I look at this as, we've been seeing the headlines that this is such a big thing. There, a hospital system in North Carolina fired 175 workers in the largest mass firing in the history of civilization. And then you go down and you read the story out of 35,000 employees. In Delaware, same thing. The 150 lost their jobs out of 10,000. You look at the fact that overwhelmingly the vast majority of people are going, yeah, I want to protect myself. And in healthcare, I want to protect my patients. It's these handfuls. It's the Kyrie Irvings. It's the handfuls that are the fly in the ointment here. So how do we deal with them? I mean, is this a moment where you go, there's the door, which I believe, or is there another way?
Bye. I mean, that's the same thing where a bunch of state troopers were going to plan on resigning in Massachusetts, and then it turns out one resigned over the vaccine mandate. Everyone else got vaccinated. I guess they didn't want to accept the job offer. Kristi Noem. You're either pro-COVID or you're anti-COVID. There's no in between. It's one or the other. If you have sentiment that sows doubt, then you are pro-COVID. This is a life or death emergency. And so if maybe Kyrie Irving spent all his time at home and never left and never interacted with any human being ever, then it would be private. It would be a private matter. But he's a public figure. He has a responsibility to the world to actually have some kind of, I guess, like LeBron. LeBron's timing is awesome. I really appreciate the timing because right now we need someone to hammer home. And so, I think LeBron did the right thing. I don't know when he got vaccinated and decided all these things, but he's rich enough to isolate himself and also require everyone around him to be vaccinated and wear a mask. And he's a multi-billion-dollar entity, you know what I mean? Himself, his body. So they treat that as a fortress. So that's a little different. It's not like he's struggling and going on the subway every day in public transit. So he has the money to do that. Not everybody does. Anybody who doesn't want to take care of other people should not have a role in public service or in hospitals or anywhere really. And everybody has the right, every corporation has the right to fire anybody for not complying. Because if they're against that, you have to question their motives with other things as well. But just looking at it at face value, it's just stupidity. Yeah. There's people buying into propaganda and brainwashing that shouldn't be there. But everybody, same thing with these venues. You wonder why the venues are banning them. It's because the owners are pushing the venues to have these mandates with vaccines. So the owners aren't to blame. So the owners aren't the ones that they're pointing out. oh, the owner banned that they support the vaccine mandate, blah, blah, blah. And it was the same thing with NFL. Like they all want to be mandate, but they don't want to say the word mandate. Like it's stupid. It's just propaganda, and they want to play to the base of Trump or whatever it is, so they don't piss these people off, and so people don't storm into their restaurants they own or whatever. And it's just fear. But I think Biden's got the right idea, where it's just you hammer home vaccine mandate, vaccine mandate. You keep on saying the words out loud, and eventually people will acquiesce. And if they don't, they'll be isolated in society and it won't be welcome anywhere.
Yeah, and I look at this, Sarah, where I started at, months ago. I said, look, if our government can't figure this out, if we're not big boys and girls to figure this out, capitalism ultimately will decide. And there's part of me that goes, part of LeBron's come to Jesus moment was, hey, it's about the money. And some of these others are going to be brought to that as well. A lot of the, as you said, in Massachusetts, a lot of the state troopers were, a lot of rhetoric. But when cash came to the wallet, they were going. And ultimately, the thing that bothers me is this whole thing has been, it seems to be about the money, when we could have very easily simply just got the vaccine and been moving forward. And you find all of these people who are making a fortune off of telling people who don't want to get the vaccine that you can use bear bile or beet juice or whatever as the miracle cure. And they're making millions. And I look at these America's frontline doctors people who anonymous hacked their stuff and revealed that they're making millions of dollars off of selling quackery.
Yeah, it's like, I'm surprised that Donald Trump isn't selling Donald Trump's magic fairy dust for, as a cure for COVID at this point. That seems like something he would totally brand and offer from his store, along with, or Rick DeSantis. That seems totally on brand for him as well.
Yeah, well, that would be a horrible thing, because none of that stuff sold. So if you're coming out with Trump's COVID cure, it's not going to sell. It's going to be like the Trump vodka or the steaks.
Well, that sold, Rick. That did sell. He sold a lot of Trump vodka in Russia somehow. I'm not sure how, but millions worth. Just FYI.
But yeah, this is something where I feel like the best part of the free market is that the free market is going to deliver results.
Yep.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Comes then the next question. Biden has come out and said we're going to have this mandate. I'm going to use it through Medicare and Medicaid. If a hospital doesn't get their people vaccinated, you're not going to get Medicaid and Medicare money. They've said we're going to use the federal government to do this. Going to issue a temporary emergency ruling through OSHA. All good stuff. My problem, Rich, is what happens when they do sue, and they're going to, and take it in front of this Supreme Court, who seems to be, unpredictable at the moment at best.
I mean, I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do, but at the end of the day, my thing is that we've got to do everything in our power to get this nation vaccinated, because if we don't, we continue basically going through these shutdowns. It continues to mutate and get even stronger. If Delta variant is COVID-19 on steroids, what is the next one going to be? And, we don't want to take that route. Other countries are taking this seriously. Right now, I think we're the laughing stock of the globe right now because of how we are allowing so many people to push nonsense, and just try to say the things that they say. All I'm saying is that we've got to put our foot down and save this country. And I don't care if you're a person that wants to just go down the ivermectin route. There comes a time when we got to have somebody that says, what, we've got to protect everybody in this country from that guy, and the way we do that is making vaccines mandatory.
Yeah, and we know who he is, because you got the stains to show it.
Yeah. It's just I'm watching people talk about getting out of the military because of the shots and all that stuff. That's absolute pure garbage.
Has it happened? Let me ask you that. Has that happened? Because I've seen the TikTok videos of all these people. I'm leaving. Can you just leave? When I was a kid, the idea of just leaving the military was not something that was really a possibility. Can you just leave?
Well, right now they're basically saying that if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to be discharged. Now, make no mistake about it. They should be receiving a dishonorable discharge, but we save the dishonorable discharges for the worst of the worst crimes. So these people will probably end up getting a general discharge, which requires, like, after 5 years, you have to put in writing a request to have your discharge upgraded. You only get one shot at that. But at the end of the day, nobody had a problem when you joined the military, when you went to the in-processing center in basic training, because you took like 10 shots. And that's a fact. When you become an officer and you went to your officer basic course, you had to go through the in-processing and you got your 10 shots. If you went to Korea, you had to go through the anthrax cycle. If you went to Iraq, you had to get smallpox. Nobody had a problem with these shots. Nobody said anything about these shots. This right now is giving people that probably were mediocre soldiers at best the ability to say, I'm out. And you know what? Good. We don't need you anyway. We can do far better without you. So
let me ask you this, Scott, because you're the social media guru here. Not that Rich, you're not. But YouTube has said, Sarah, you're better than I am too. Everyone's better than I am on social media. YouTube has said they're pulling all the stuff down of the anti-vaxxers. And you had said earlier, they're a very small number, but they're really loud, especially on a platform like YouTube. Are you in favor of that kind of censorship, or is this not a censorship issue to you?
It's not censorship. It's something that should never happen in the first place. It's spun out of control. You shouldn't have to delete a million videos that are complete disinformation. It's beyond the pale. Like, even the sowing doubt, it's not opinion when you're like, oh, well, I heard that this hurt my friend or whatever. Like, you're telling a story or a lie that could kill people. Like, that's the bottom. Like, people are getting killed because of this stupidity. And it's different than censorship. It's like a vaccine mandate. It's sometimes you have to do something for the greater good. And this is one of those things. The greater good is like, oh, okay, maybe we don't want to. Maybe it's like yelling fire in a movie theater. People saying, well, I don't know about this vaccine. It's like, shut the F up and just sit down. It's not your time. If you want to complain about it with your friends in private and whatnot, great. You should have no public space for whatsoever, because all you're doing is killing people. All you're doing is hurting people, helping you spread the disease. Obviously, I think some of these people are just scared of needles. As Rich had mentioned about the military, a lot of these people with the videos were not real members of the military. And that was another thing. They were just committing fraud, acting like they were members of the military, or they were vets who acted like they were active duty and they were not. So a lot of these things get debunked over time, but it's that initial pump out there that needed to be stopped. And we're going to find out very, very quickly that social media companies are responsible for a lot of the death in America. They killed people, and that's not something they can take back.
Yeah, to me, this is kind of like if you knew there was an alligator in a pond, you shouldn't be allowed to send people to go swimming. And that's kind of like the path that we're going down right now with these people.
But if you knew there was an alligator in the pond and you still went, should we care about you? I mean, because this is where I'm at. This is the weird spot that I'm in. I'm in the spot where I'm ready to go. Okay, if you didn't get vaccinated, we know now this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I'm of the mindset going, you made a choice. There are consequences to the choice. You lost your job or you died. That's your call.
I don't want to pay for your health care. Yeah.
If we see them walking into the water and there's a crocodile there, I don't care if it's Donald Trump. Well, I don't care if it's most people wearing a red hat or not. I don't want them to go in there because I don't want them to die. I don't want that croc to get a taste for other people and kill someone in my family. It's vaccine mandates are investments in America. And that's how we need to think about it. It's not mandatory. So there are so many mandates that we have. Oh, we got to get rid of the stop sign mandate. We got to get rid of the seatbelt mandate. We got to get rid of I'm going to be in an airplane and I can't get in the cockpit. What's the deal? You're banning me from the cockpit? I can't go in there. I can't get my little pin from Delta. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of this is hysteria that's blown out of proportion through advertisements on social media that are paid for by either Trump or foreign investors that want to cause chaos in America, that want to kill Americans. And the easiest way to kill Americans is not through a terrorist attack. It's not through even a domestic terrorist attack. It's through social media and driving this disinformation that kills people via COVID. And that is what's hurting us the most. And so we have to think of this as an investment in America. It's costing us too much money. We need to stop this madness. And the only way to stop it is to just look at everything and delete all this crap.
There you go. And that's where we'll leave this, guys. I appreciate the time. As always, great stuff. Sarah Burris, Raw Story, Scott Dworkin, Democratic Coalition, Rich O'Dell, No Dem Left Behind. Thanks, guys. Look forward to the next panel. Thanks so much.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated. And if you missed any of today's program, thericksmithshow.com. That's where you go to get the podcast, the Rick Smith Show app on the smartphone. Take the program on the go, wherever you go. And always, as always, you can email me, rick at thericksmithshow.com. You got any thoughts, questions, comments? We'd love to hear it. Make sure you follow us on social media at Rick Smith Show on Twitter. Get us over on Facebook, YouTube, all of those places. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show.